Okay, welcome to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the SAP ABAP dictionary. And of course, if you are new to my channel, this channel is all about programming with the SAP ABAP. So actually the data dictionary is for me the beginning or the starting point for beginners. So if you want to get straight into the programming, start from this point. So the dictionary is actually an interface where you could create different types of objects. So to have access to the ABAP dictionary, you use the transaction code. You use the transaction code SE11. So if you are not familiar with what transaction codes are, you could leave a comment in the comment section. I could make a video to explain transaction code. So basically, transaction codes are just like page addresses where if you enter the transaction code, it takes you to a particular page where you can perform a particular transaction or an action. So this is the ABAP dictionary initial screen page. So here you can create a table, you can create views, you can create data types, you can create domain, search helps, and log objects. So in subsequent videos, I will also make videos on these different objects. Now, using the ABAP dictionary, we'll actually start by creating a simple or a sample table, and just like I've demonstrated, you just type in S11 and it takes you to the ABAP dictionary screen. So before then, I would like to show you the fields of the table, what the table that we are going to create looks like. So have a look at this. So basically, we're going to create two tables. One is the header table and the other is the item table. So the first table on the screen is the header table, and the next table that we see here is the item table. Now, so in ABAP, when designing a table structure, it is generally recommended and used practice to have a header table and an item table. The header table stores the general information about the record that you want, about the table that you want to create, while the item table contains additional descriptions and details. For instance, we can see that the header table has client ID, it has order ID, and order date. So if you look at the item table, you will see additional information such as the item number, the item details, and the item price. So to get started, we want to create the table structure. The first thing that we need to do is that we need to create the domains and the corresponding data elements. So the question arises, what is a domain, or what are data elements? So a domain is the technical characteristics such as the length or the data type that you want to create, while the data element is the labels that are visible to the user. For instance, inputs could be PW, which means password, but you want the user to see the text password, and so you label this as password. So you need to create data elements for this. So in this video, I'll be showing you how to create all the domains and the data elements that are needed to create the table structure that I showed in the previous slide. So we're going to create the domains and the data elements. Now I made it easy. So these are the domains that we're going to be creating. The domain for the order ID, the domain for the order date, the domains for payment method, the domain for total amount, the domain for currency, and also we're going to be creating data elements for data ID, data element for the client ID, data element for the order date, data element for the total amount, and data element for payment method, data element for currency. So as long as you have a domain that you want it to be displayed, then you must create the corresponding data element. So enough of talking, let's head on to the SAP graphical user interface. So when you log into the SAP graphical user interface, the first thing that you see is the SAP Easy Access. And so to go to the ABAP dictionary, we enter S11, SE11, and then we see the different objects that we can create with the ABAP dictionary. So now you can see the first radio button is the database table. So we are interested in creating the table. So you give it a name. So normally in ABAP, for objects that are created by other users which are not from the SAP system, you are allowed to start with the letter Z or Y. Every other objects, tables, etc. that are created in the ABAP system, all other alphabets are reserved for them. So I'm going to choose Z. So when creating a table, you give the alphabet, and just so I want to create the other header table, so we can give an abbreviation and give an ID. So ZZ order header _24. So you hit the create button, and then we give a short description, and we can say order header table. Okay, now we need to select delivery class. For example purposes, I will select A. If you want more explanation about the delivery class, please leave a comment in the comment section. And then the next thing, for the data browser, display maintenance allowed with restriction, we need to change this. Select display maintenance allowed. I will also make a video on the data browser and table view editing. So if you want more explanation on this, kindly leave a comment, and this will enable me to focus more on the important things. So I click on save. Usually we create a package in SAP system, and if you are not aware of this already, I'm going to make a video on how to create a package. So I already have a package in the system, so it is easier for me to keep track of all the objects that I create. So we can view which package we have on the system by going to the object navigator. So with transaction code SE80. So, and then when you click, you select package. So my package name is this. Then let's save the table name, save in this package. So you could also, if you don't have a package, you could also select local object and save directly to local object. So you save, and of course I made also a request. I've created a request. So this request, I will also make videos on this, but for test purposes, if you don't know this, ignore this for now. And most of my videos, I'm going to be not going down to the very basics. So if you will need me to explain certain concepts that I did not cover in the video, leave a comment in the comment section, and I will make subsequent videos on that. Because the reason why I'm making this video is for those 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 10 persons who are interested in learning and are stuck in how to go forward. So let's save the request. So we've created the table name, but now we need to create the fields, as you can see on the screen. So we need to create the fields, the client ID, the order ID, the order date, the payment method, all these fields we need to create. But something is missing, the data elements. So we need to create the data elements that we need to use. But we cannot create the data element without first creating the domain. Okay, so that takes us back to this slide. And then we need to create the domain, and to do that we head over to SE16. And if you are in a transaction and you want to go back using a transaction code, you can do \n, then you type in the transaction code. So \n SE16 will take us back to the ABAP dictionary. Remember what we, \n SE11, this is the data browser. \n S11 takes us to the ABAP dictionary. So now I want to create the domain. So the first domain that we need to create is for the order ID. Okay, so you select the radio button for the domain, and then you type in the name that you want to call this domain. So as I showed on the screen, we are going to give it a name, ZZ order ID underscore 24. Then you select on create. You give a short description so we can see order ID domain, right? Now we need to select the data type. We go back to the screen. So the data type for the order ID is going to be what we call numeric character. So you click here and F4 brings you all the options that you can select from. So numeric text or numeric character, you select, and how many number of characters do you want the order ID to be? So we enter the number of characters, in this case maximum of 10, and then decimal places, I don't want any, that'll be 0. Output length, also make it 10. Then we save this. I save it to my package. Remember, every object I create, I save it to my package. I can also make a video on how to create a package. If you don't know this, leave a comment in the comment section. Then, or you could select on local objects and it saves to the local objects. We save it to the request. And so we've created a domain for the order ID. We don't need to create a domain for the client ID. This I will explain later. So we head back and create the domain for the order date. So we could call it, select the domain radio button, ZZO order date underscore, give it an ID 24, and then we hit on create, and so we can say domain for order date, that is when the order was placed. So the data type, so from the screen you could see that the data type, is the DATS. So that is the data type used for date, and click on this F4 to bring the options. We are looking for DATS. Then what is the length? It's automatically written as 8, so we don't touch this. Just save to my package, save to my transport request, and it's saved. So likewise, you create to save time and to also increase your learning effect, you create the other domains for the remaining objects. Or better still, let me just create it. So the next domain that we need to create is the payment method. So select domain and then give it a name, payment method underscore 24. Okay, so we then click on create. So let's say domain for payment method. So we select a type. The data type is going to be character string. So a character of how many lengths? We use 1. Let's clear this. 1. Decimal places no. Output length to be 1, and then we save to not yet, don't save yet. So now payment method is either credit card, bank, or Klarna, so forth. So we need to keep or use only abbreviations such as C for credit, B for bank, or whatever that you might think of. So that is where the value range comes into the game. So in the fields, I will say I can enter C will represent credit, and then D will represent debit, and then we can say K to represent Klarna. This is just an example, okay? So we save this, save to my package, save to my requests, and we've created the domain for the payment method. Now we need to create the domain for the total amount. So let's see, that'll be ZZTA total amount underscore 24. So we hit on the create button. So the data type, we click here, or short description first. Short description, let's see, domain for the total amount, then the data type, F4 to bring out the options. This is currency, so currency key for currency fields. And then the length, the number of characters automatic is 5. So we save this. Of course, I assume you know how to save. Ctrl S. and then save to my package. Okay, so we have succeeded in creating the domains for the header table. The next thing we have to do is to create the data elements. So like I explained earlier, the data elements are the fields that are to be visible to the user. Okay, so of course we still use SE11, which is the ABAP dictionary, \n SE11. So you see from the radio button, you select the data type and we give a name the name for the data element. So the first data elements that we want to create is the data element for the order ID. So we're gonna call this ZZ underscore data element ID underscore 24. Okay, hit on the, of course, you see that I see have some things in the fields, but this is not important. What counts most is the radio button that is selected. Okay, so if you select table and you type in data type, then you are going to have access to the data type page. So select the radio button, click on create, and then from here we want to create a data element. So from these three options, you select the data element. So give a short description, say order ID data element. Then we select a domain. Remember the domain that we created initially? So what was the domain for the order ID? Check the screen. The domain was ZZ order ID underscore 24. You could also use the F for search help. So if I enter the domain and I click on enter, so when I clicked on enter, I got this information that no domain exists. And the reason is simple, because when we saved the domains that we created, we did not activate. So when you create an object, there are three things that you need to do. You need to save, you need to check for syntax error, and then you need to activate. So when you activate, then these objects are accessible everywhere in the system. Of course, depending on the restrictions that are placed on the objects. So to save, Ctrl S, for syntax check, Ctrl F2 for Windows users, and to activate, Ctrl F3. All right, there are also buttons on the graphical user interface that you could use. Let's go back to the GUI. Okay, now actually the best way to view the inactive objects in your system is to go to the object that will be SE80, the transaction code SE80. So \n SE80. So from the package, from this option, this is package. Okay, so when we head into SE80, you select this drop down and then search for inactive objects. So I select, this is my username. Okay, let me hit enter. So I have objects that I created that were not activated. So you could see the domains, all the domains that I created were not activated, and including the table. Okay, this is just a sample test. Okay, this was the order header table yet to be activated. So I need to activate this, so we can just double click on one of them. We do either you click on this to check to activate, Ctrl F3. So now it brings all the objects that are inactive. So we will not try to activate the table yet because we have not filled in the fields. So this is the order date. So this is the domain for order date and it's currently selected. So click on the mark to confirm to activate. Normally you could just select all and activate all, but we don't want to activate the order header table yet because we get error. And do likewise activate for the rest. Order ID, Ctrl S, it comes off. Activate, and then activate also the domain for the payment method. Likewise, activate for the total amount. Click. Okay, so now the domains are activated. So let's leave out the header order table. So let's head back to SE11 backslash N SE11, where we need to fill in the fields of the table. So what we do, enter the table name, which is ZZOH24 for the order header. Click on the change. Then in the fields, so the first field is actually the client ID. Okay, so this is the client number of the SAP system. So tables should always have this field, because if you do not give this field, then the system could just give you a random client number, which you do not want to happen. So let's go back to, so let's try to fill in the fields now. In the first field, we can call it the client. And if you check this, you'll see that the key, I said select. So I'll explain this because this is a primary key. Then the data type of the client is MADT. This is the normal way of how it is done. The month field, the month data element. And when you hit on the enter button, it automatically automatically fills in the technical descriptions for the field. And so the second field that I want to create, if you check back at the table, is the order ID. You can see order ID, and this is also a primary key. You select, I will explain these fields later. And then what is the data type for the order ID? Remember, the order ID, the data type was ZZ order ID underscore 24. So when I hit on the enter button, yeah, my mistake here. So the order ID, check the second slide below, the order ID ZZ underscore data element order ID underscore 24. Hit on enter. Oh, okay, I missed a step. Activating the domains, we were going to create a data element. So we are getting this error because at this point we have not yet created data element. So if we have not created the data elements, there's no way we can use it. So let's head over to create the data elements for the domains. And we can see all the data elements on the screen here. So the first data element that we need to create is the data element for the ID. So call it ZZ data element ID. Click on the create. So from the three radio buttons, select data element, and description, we can say order ID data element. So the domain now will be this one, ZZ order ID domain. Look on the screen. This is domain for order ID, and then the corresponding data element. So if we hit on enter, it should automatically fill the data type and the length. So you see that it automatically filled the data type to be the numeric character and the length to be 10. So we save to my package, save to the transport request. Now maintain the label field. Good. So remember that the data element is used to create the labels that are visible to the user. So we say yes, we want to create the label fields. So just go ahead to fill in the short description. We can say short description ID, then the medium, we can say order ID, long order ID, heading, you can say order ID. So hit on the enter, and then we save this, Control S, then we check for syntax, F2, and then we activate this, always activate. So this is where we are currently, the data element order ID. So we select this to activate. Now this is activated. So we head on to create the data elements for the order date. So, and what is the name from the screen? We have ZZ data element order date underscore 24. So hit on the create button, select the data element and fill in the short description. So this will be order date data element. Okay, then enter the domain. So the domain will be ZZ order date underscore 24. Click on enter, automatically filled the already created domain. details. So you can go to the field labels to fill in the labels to be displayed to the user. Short description, we can see order date, long description, medium, order date, long description, still order date, heading, the order date. So hit on enter, Control save, save to my package, save to the transport request, syntax check, F2, Control F2, then Control F3 to activate the data element. Okay, so it's activated, and so I'll just head over to create the data element for total amount. I'm gonna fast forward. Okay, let's just do it. Data element for total amount. Click on create, select data element, total amount data element. So the domain was ZZTE_24. Hit enter. Okay, save, activate, maintain the field. You can see amount, short description, long description, medium rather, total amount, long, heading, Control save, Control F2, Control F3 to activate, confirm. So that is created. So we head over and create, go back, create the data element for payment method _24, create, select payment method data element. What is our domain? ZZEM_24. Hit enter, autofills, go to the field label, payment method. Of course, if you have a longer text, you can enter the longer text, save to my package, transport request. So we can actually use any of these buttons to activate. This is the activate button, so click on activate. This is the one that we are currently working on. Confirm. And finally, we create the data element for currency field, for the currency field, right? So that is called data element for currency _24. Create, select data element, short description. So what's the domain for currency? ZZ currency _24. Hit enter. So no domain for currency. So let's check. Maybe I have not created it. Let's go to the inactive object. Perhaps I created it and it's not yet activated. So let's check. So it has not been created. Okay, so let's go to SE11. It's not going to navigate. We need to put \n SE11. So we need to create the domain for the currency. Oh, I remember why it was not created. Okay, so we are going to use the domain for the total amount because they share the same technical characteristics, but we cannot use the same data elements because the fields are different, right? Okay, so let's use the domain for total amount, which is ZZTE autofills _24 autocomplete. So we fill in the field label. This is currency. We can type in currency. Okay, hit enter, then save to my package. Like I said, you could also save to your local objects, save to my transport request. If you need explanation how to make the package and transport requests, or if you don't know what it means, leave a comment in the comment section and I'll make a video on this. So we have succeeded in creating the domains and the data elements. Now we need to head over to the header table and fill in the table with the fields and the corresponding data elements. So go to SE11 \n SE11 to the ABAP data dictionary. So this is our table. I select the radio button, click on change, not create because we already created it. Okay, I have it open somewhere. So this is lock objects. So since I have it opened in another window, I'm not allowed to edit at the same time simultaneously, which is good for data consistency. Okay, so I have it open here. Now the order ID, can give it a full name or an abbreviation. So let's use abbreviation, order ID. And it's a primary key. That's why this is select and select. I'll explain primary key in the next slide. So we select the data element to be the data element that we created for the order ID, ZZ order ID, just an abbreviation. And this is the data elements that we created for the order ID. And when you hit the enter button, it automatically fills in the technical characteristics. And the next one is the order date. So this is the field of the table, order dates, and what is the data element that we created for order date? Do you remember? Okay, I can't not remember. So now let's use the search help, and if you click F4, and then that's why it's important to create a package. You go to the package section. My package is ZV, and I hit on the enter. So it brings all the data elements connected to this package. So this is why package is important. Now I'm looking for the data element for order date. So see, order date and description also is very good and important. How come there's no description for currency? Okay, so let's hit on save, and then let's create for payment method, call it PM, and you can do the same thing, search in the package. Payment method is this, and we hit on enter. Okay, then the next one is the total amount. Let's call it TA. Total amount is this, then hit on enter. Automatically fills in the data type and the technical characteristics. Then the last one is the currency field, data type. Hit the enter button. So short description is missing. Probably I skipped this, so let me try to fix this. So you could just copy this. Then if you go to system, you can say open new GUI. You can open up to 5 sections. So let's go to S11. Remember, I want to edit the currency data element. So this time we'll click on change currency of data element. So why is the description not showing? Control save, control check, then activate. Interestingly, looks like I've not created a domain for the currency. Okay, domain. Okay, so I've created the domain for the currency. So let's head back to the data element. So let's edit this data element. Go to SE11, give it this domain. Actually, I was supposed to enter the data element that was created. Yep. So we need to also create a domain for the currency. Yeah. Okay. So just a quick wrap up. We have the primary key. So this is a unique ID that identifies a record. For instance, an employee has a unique ID. So this is not something that is the same for everyone, or your social security number, or your BVN, or for those in Nigeria or in Germany, your tax ID. So these are unique ID. So a primary key is used to identify. And in the table, when you create a table, the primary keys must be at the top. Okay, they must be at the top. Then secondly, we have the month field. That's the first field for the client ID. So this is the client number of the SAP system. So tables that does not have the month field are called as client independent tables. So always use the month, the MANDT, so that your data will not be transferred to another client. Okay, now wait, we are not yet done. So finally, okay, so we go now next to the technical settings. Go, set, save, fix, save. So let's go and do this. We could see the technical settings here on the screen. So you select technical settings. All right, I need to save first. So let's save this. Now, when you select the technical settings, so the technical settings, and then we click on F4. So it brings all the data classes that we can select from. And for test purposes, select on the first one. I'll be making videos to explain this. And if you're also interested in more explanation on which data class to use, leave a comment in the comment section and I'll make the videos as soon as possible. So then we need to also select set the size category. So for detailed explanation, leave a comment. And so if you click on the F4, let's select the 0 and then you mark it, confirm. Now the next step is to save. Control S, or you click on this button here to save, and then we check for syntax error. Control F2, so we go back to the table, then we save, we do a control check, and then control F3 to activate. And when you get the error to fix the reference table, you fix this reference table, and then save again, check and activate. So our table has been created after we activated it. So let's go to how to maintain the table. Basically, we use the change mode to insert, of course, create operations, create, display, update, delete, and we've already created the table, the process we went through to create the table, and then we need to see how to insert details, how to delete details. And so let's get started. Okay, now, so let's go on to the GUI and see how we can maintain the table. So you can do this by clicking on the utilities, then go to table of contents, then create entries. So here, for example, the order ID, you can say 250, the order date. With the help function, we can select the date. So you can select the date and choose. Okay, so they choose. All right, then the payment method, remember we entered 3 character, so we can select from those options with the respective descriptions. And total amount, let's say 500. Currency is euros. So let's save, control save. So it says database record successfully created. Now let's create one more. 251. Order date, let's say 9th, a day before. Then payment method, what was selected in the previous one. Let's select credit, and total amount 1000. Currency is also euros. So control save, or you can just click on the save button, save. So database record, seems like you cannot see the screen at the lower bottom. Okay, so yeah, so it's database record created successfully. Okay, so now you can repeat the procedures for other records that you want to save, and then to view, you can go back to, you can click on utilities, table contents, you can click on display, then execute. So you see that we created 2 tables, and this is my client number. If you did not specify this field, then SAP system can give you a random client number, which you do not want to do that. So this is the order ID, this is the date, and this is the currency. Now to edit, you can just select a role and click on this button here. Click on this button here to change. Then you can edit. So let's put this to 1500. You can also change the date to next to 17th, and you can change the order. Okay, order ID and the client ID, these are primary key data that cannot be modified. So if you are satisfied, click on save. Data record saved successfully. Then if we go back again, you see that the record has been updated from 500 to 1500. Then to delete, it's just quite easy. Click on the row that you want to delete, go to table entry and delete, confirm your delete, and data record deleted successfully. Now go back, we are left with 1 record. So remember that we use the SE11 to access the table. We can also use other transaction codes like the SE16 data browser. So SE16 /n. Okay, the reason why I'm putting /n is because I am on a different page. So if I was at the home page or the home access page, you don't need to put or insert /n. Okay, so /n SE11 SE16. Okay, so now we are here and we input the table name. So here you can see the options. You can see table contents. You can create entries. So if you want to create entry, you click here, 255, select a date, select payment method, select, enter the total amount, say 10,000, and currency is US dollars, USD, and control save. So this is saved, right? So if you want to view table contents, click on execute, then we get the record. So this is how to use SC16, and then you can also try the SC16 \n SC16 n. So this is the newer version of the SC16. You could use it to create, delete, and insert. And of course, you want me to show you how to use this, you can also leave a comment. Okay, so this is how far we'll go for this first video, and I hope you learned a lot. So the next video will be on table maintenance generator. And what this means is that in production system, basically there are three systems. We have development, quality, and the production system. So what we are doing now is development, right? So in production system, which is a live system, users do not have access to SE11 or SE16 to edit, to delete, or to insert records into the table. So what is normally done is that a table maintenance generator is created so that user can have access to the functionalities that we just explained. So in the next video, I'll be making a video on how to create and maintain this table maintenance generator. And also, next videos will also be based on comments. So from this video, if you have any comments of some topics that I left out or some things that were not clear, leave it in the comment section. And of course, don't forget to like this video if you learned something, and don't forget to also subscribe to keep in touch with the next video uploads.